So very good morning. Today we will discuss principles of experimentation. So we discuss planning of an experiment, steps in experimentation, the role of experimental design, classification of experimental design, basic definition of experimental, specific issues of experimental design, size and shape of plots, principal experimentation. It is the most important. It is the define experimentation in this topic. Define different steps in experimentation, understand the terms experimentation, understand the principles of experimentation we have to do here. So in the topic we are discussing here, the modern concepts of the experimental designs were preliminarily it is developed by Ronald Fisher in 1920 and 1930. Rootmaster Experimental Station, Agriculture Research Station of London. In Fisher's first book on the Fisher has been taken the first book. The design of experiment is showed how valid conclusions could be drawn efficiently from experiment with the natural fluctuations such as temperature, soil conditions, and rainfall. That is in the presence of nuisance variable. The known nuisance variables usually cause a systematic base of the groups of the results batch to batch, and the variables batch to batch we have taken here. The known nuisance variables usually cause random variability results as called as inherent variability or noise. Experimental design was first used in the agricultural context method by using has been applied by successful in the military and industry since 1940. The CDA, working in US Naval Experimentation Laboratory, used experimental design to solve the problems of finding the cause of bad worlds at the naval shipyards during the World War II drawbacks. Employed by Imperial Chemical Industries before coming to the United States, is a leading developer of experimental design produced to optimizing chemical process. W. Awards deeming the chart statistical methods, including experimental design, to Japanese scientists and engineers in the early 1950s, at the time made in Japan, meant poor quality. Jenichi Taguchi, the most known, this group Japanese scientist, is famous for quality improvement methods. One of the companies where Taguchi was first applied the methods, design of experiments is considered as an advanced method in the Six Sigma program, which were pioneered in Motorola and GE according to the Bernard Oscar. The design of experiment, the complete sequence of steps taken ahead of time to time, ensures that the appropriate data will be obtained in a way that permits subject to analysis the inferences respected to stated problem. In a field of study, either life sciences or same other the essential of plan of experiment. So we can take that which type of the data is required we have taken here in order to make the use of time and energy to step on experiment here. It should be planned with careful design. Once a design of experiment, it is desired the observation for obtained with the technique of analysis of guidance, the data is analyzed. So we are taking here in the basically we are taking here, then we are taking the scientific method. What is the scientific method we are taking here? The power of inductive reasoning that the permit scientists explain the scientific method. They will ask in the examination, explain the scientific method. The power of inductive reasoning is that the permits the scientists to formulate general theories about the world based on particular observations of the behavior of the world. The problem with inductive reasoning is that the theories are often wrong. The scientific method is a formal statement of design of facility, the scientist making the most effective use of hazard observation. The scientific method usually defined as consistent. So, most effective use of desired observation, the scientific method is usually defined, it consists of the following the four steps. A formulation of the hypothesis based on preliminary observations, based on preliminary observations, it is a tentative explanation and formulation of hypothesis and preliminary observation. This the explanation. Planning on the experiment must be constructed the objective test by the hypothesis. H0 anukuntam, alternative anukuntam, careful observation and collection of the data. Interpretation of the result. The results of the experiment may lead the confirmation, alternation, rejection of the hypothesis. What is the planning of experiment? They will ask in the examination what is the planning of experiment. There are some basic points regarding to the planning of experiment which should be under consideration. In the planning of experiment, what is the condition? Simplicity. The design should be as simple as possible, consistent with the objectives of the experiment. The design should be as simple as possible, consistent with the objectives of the experiment. There must be a clearly defined objective. For an experiment, it is essential to specify the objective perfectly. In other words, the objective of the experiment should be clearly defined. Then the experiment should be free from bias. So what is the free from bias? We are taking experiment free from the bias we are taking here. An experiment must be planned to give the unbiased estimate of the values we wish to measure. Okay? Unbiased, what is the meaning of unbiased? Tell me anyone. What is the meaning of unbiased? I am audible?
Yes, sir.
What is unbiased? Anyone? So an experiment must be planned to give unbiased estimate the values which are measured. It is a matter of the design so that the no bias on the part of experimenter. Clear here, no bias on the experimenter can possibly enter into the result. This is achieved mainly by randomization. There must be a measure of error. Completely this one. The true experiment is one of the strictly objective. It should be furnish a measure of error, and this error alone should be the measuring stick of significance. Experimental units receiving one treatment should not differ if any systematic way from those receiving or another treatment, so that unbiased estimate of treatment effect can be obtained. The experiment should have sufficient accuracy. The accuracy on experiment can be brought by the elimination of the technical errors and by increasing replication. The number of replications should be decided to produce given degrees of accuracy. Range of validity conclusion, you have to write all these theory one, all this theory part you have to must and should write without any deviation. The experiment should have sufficient accuracy. The accuracy of experiment can be brought as an elimination method. We are taking a technical errors by increasing replication. The number of replication. What is the meaning of replication? What is the meaning of replication? It is repeated. Replication means repeated. The replication should be decided to produce given degrees of accuracy. The range of validity conclusion should be as wide of a range of validity possible. An experiment replaced in time and space would increase the range of validity conclusions that could be drawn from it. In fact, a factorial set of treatment is another way of increasing the range of validity on experiment. Calculation of degree, uncertainty. So the experiment should design that it is possible to calculate the possibility of obtaining observed result by chance alone. So steps of experimentation. So steps of experiment define the problem and determine the objective, select the product treatment, select the experimental material, select the experimental design, select the experimental unit and number of replications, ensure proper organization, layout, ensure proper means of data collection, outline the statistical analysis before doing the experiment, conduct the experiment, analyze the data, interpret the results, prepare, complete the readable reports. The role of experimental design. Experimental design concerns the validity of efficiency of the experiment. Experimental design the following diagram. It is represented by a mobile window through which certain aspects of the true state of nature, more or less distorted by noise, may be observed. The position and size of the window depend on the questions being asked by the quality of experiment. The experiment is purely used design may not be generic and useful information for meaningful analysis. The wisely designed experiment can provide factual evidence which is easily be analyzed and understood the researcher. The role of experimental design ante ento cheptunna nenu. What adutadu exam lo the role of experimental write the role of experimental design ante you have to write all these one. The diagram emphasizes that although the conjectured state of nature may the false or least inexact, the data themselves are generated by the true sum of state of nature. This is the reason why the process of continually updating the hypothesis and comparing the directed states of nature with actual data can be led convergence in the right answer. A complete scientific research process therefore includes two concurrent and parallel to the approaches, theoretical and experimental. The statistics offers a powerful tool, help researchers to conduct the experiment, analyze data. These two approaches must be integrated to gain the knowledge of phenomena. The designated experiment must satisfy all requirements of the objects of a study, but it is also subject to the limitations of available resources. In general, the objective and hypothesis of the study influences the design of experiment. See the diagram, all of you. The most important diagram. This is the true of state of nature. This is experimental design. This is a window. This is the noise. Noise and sound చేస్తుంది ఇక్కడ available data and new data. Available new data from induction and modified hypothesis. What? From the window design hypothesis, deduction and consequences of HI. Papa. What? So consequences of hypothesis. You are understood all of you this diagram? All of you understood this diagram?
Yes, sir.
ఏమీ లేదు విండోస్ నుంచి ఎట్లా వస్తుందో దాని డయాగ్రామ్ ఇది చూసైనా మీరు రాయొచ్చు ఈజీగా. ట్రూ ఆఫ్ స్టేట్ ఆఫ్ నేచర్, ఎక్స్పెరిమెంటల్ విండో, ఎట్లా సౌండ్ వస్తుంది, అవైలబుల్ డాటాను తీసుకుంటాం, ఇండక్షన్, మాడిఫైడ్ హైపోథిసిస్, హైపోథిసిస్ వచ్చే డిడక్షన్, కాన్సిక్వెన్సెస్ హైపోథిసిస్. దిస్ ఇస్ ద మేజర్ వన్. అడుగుతాడండి లాంగ్ క్వశ్చన్లో అడగాల్సిన the objectives and experimental design. Any type of an experimental depends on the objective and the populations of the inference can be extended depending on the scope of the industry, which is determined in terms of the objectives of the study. Hypothesis and experimental design. Curiosity leads to investigational questions that can be posted in the form of hypothesis. Hypothesis is the simplest possible answer to a question, stated a way that it is a testable and falsifiable. Hypothesis formulation a prerequisite the application of statistical design and analysis. A null hypothesis can never be predicted, proved correct, but it can be rejected with no risk of being wrong. Falsifiable, the chemical can never be satisfactorily proved as perfectly safe. A null hypothesis can never be proven correct. It can be only be rejected with no risk of being wrong. H0, the difference of n treatments has been no effect on yield. What is meaning of yield? H, the difference of n treatments having a significant effect on ante alternate hypothesis, null hypothesis. We are taking here a good experimental design or the qualification of uncertainty. The experimental design that is the possible failure, possibility of obtaining observed results by the alone. If there are real differences between treatments, a good experimental design should have a good probability of defecting the difference power of the experiment. If H0 says that the maturing cultivars with the same yields as early maturing cultivars, అంటే ఎగ్జాంపుల్ తీసుకున్నాం కల్టివేర్స్ తీసుకుంటే రిజెక్ట్ చేయొచ్చు ఇంక్రీజ్డ్ బై ద లేట్. వాట్ ఇస్ ద మీనింగ్ ఆఫ్ కల్టివేర్స్? వాట్ ఇస్ ద మీనింగ్ ఆఫ్ కల్టివేర్స్? కల్టివేర్స్ అంటే ఏంటండి జ్యోతి? ఐఎమ్ ఆడిబుల్? ఓకే, మీరు ఎవరు సపోర్ట్ చేస్తే క్లాసులు లేనట్టు. సో కల్టివేర్, then you must reject the HO, including yield of late of cultivars or observed in the equipment. You cannot say that come in, think, and there is a difference maybe due to different environments, but they're grown, not really cultivate differences. Results can be interpreted in that way. When the hypothesis is falsifiable, then the results is poor experimental design. You have to write it. Then classification of experimental design. So statistics by tells you do not statisticians by themselves do not design of experiments by they have developed a number of structured schedules called experimental design. They are recommended for the taking of measurements. The design has certain rational relationships of the purposes, needs, and physical limitations. Design also offers certain advantages in economy of experimentation and provides straightforward estimation of experimental effects and valid estimates of variance. There are a number of ways in which experiment design might be classified. By the number of experimental factors be investigated, single factor versus multiple factor designs. By the structure of the experimental design, blocked factorial, nested and response surface design. By the kind of information which the experiment is primarily intended to provide, estimates of effects, estimates of variance, or empirical mapping. So we are taking it. So basic definitions of experimental design. So basic fundamental theorems of already wide used section. So what is the treatment? What is the SST, SSV we are writing? What is the treatment? In an experiment, there are some variants under study. The effect which measured and tested compared the variants will be preferred as treatment. For example, to test the effects on 3 fertilizers, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. On the yield of certain crop, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash are called as మనం ఏమైతే ప్రయోగిస్తామో అవి నైట్రోజన్ So the treatment you have to do here, 3 nitrogen, phosphorus and potash are called as treatments here. Then yield, what is yield? The response of the treatment. So the response of the treatments we are taking here. It's a boring subject, na? Yes.
Theory ka sir.
మరి కంపల్సరీ అడుగుతాడు బేసిక్ డైరెక్షన్స్ ఆఫ్ ద ఎక్స్పెరిమెంటల్ డిజైన్ చదువుకుంటారా మరి ఇది విడిచిపెట్టనా
Okay, sir.
Sir.
ఇది ఈ డయాగ్రామ్ మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ సిగ్నిఫికెన్స్ ఆఫ్ ద లెవెల్ ఆఫ్ టెస్టింగ్ ఆఫ్ హైపోథీసిస్ ద మోస్ట్ నల్ హైపోథీసిస్ కరెక్ట్ డిసిషన్ ట్రూ అంటే కరెక్ట్ డిసిషన్ ఫాల్స్ అంటే టైప్ 2 ఎర్రర్ ఇది టైప్ 1 ఎర్రర్ కరెక్ట్ డిసిషన్ ఇట్లా ఇది చదువుకుంటారా
చదువుకుంటాం సార్. చదువుకుంటాం
సరే నేను నెక్స్ట్ యూనిట్ పోతాను ఇక మరి మీరు ఏం సప్పుల్లో చదవలేదు క్లాస్లో చూసారా రౌండ్ నెంబర్స్
చూసాం సార్.
Yes, sir.
దట్స్ ఆల్
ఓకే సార్.
ఇది కూడా థియరీ పార్టే కంప్లీట్ ర్యాండమైజ్డ్ డిజైన్ ఇది కూడా థియరీ పార్టే కంప్లీట్ గా వినాలి తప్పదు complete randomized design CRD instruction CRD structure of CRD layout of CRD preliminary exploratory analysis assumption advantages and disadvantages of CRD mathematical model in law advanced CRD లో mathematical model అడుగుతాడు specialization analysis statistical analysis explain the completely randomized design describe the layout of CRD explain the statistical analysis CRD explain the advantages and disadvantages as well as the suitability of CRD introduction of CRD what is the complete randomized design the simples are all the designs completely randomized design CRD which is applied in the case of the experimental material homogeneous. We will study the complete randomized design and their analysis in some detail before considering the other designs. Because we are taking here the many of the concepts and methods learned in the CRD context can be transferred with little or no modification to the more compiled designs. Hence, we define completely randomized designs and describe the initial analysis of results. CRD based on two principles, randomized replication. The third principle, the local control, is not used because the assume that the experimental material are homogeneous. In this, the treatments are allocated random to the experimental units, and each treatment is assigned to different experiment units completely random, can be repeated any number of times. It's called as, it is the most important, the completely randomized design, this one. This CRD is completely two principles. Replication means it is repeatable. The third principle is local control, not be used because assumed as experimental is homogeneous. In this, the treatments are allocated randomly in the randomly experimental units. Treatment assigned to the different experimental units completely random. Random, it can be repeated by number of times. That why it is called as completely random. అందులో ఉండడమే random గా ఉంది కాబట్టి random గా తీసుకుంటాం కాబట్టి దాన్ని completely randomized design అని అంటున్నాం. Very most important structure of CRD complete randomized that they will ask. Explain structure of CRD. We have K treatments to compare end units and our experiment for a completely randomized design. Suppose we have K treatments under comparison of the ith treatments to be replicated. Ni times I is equal to 1 to K, the total number of units required for the design. N is equal to summation of N is equal to 1 to K is equal to N. We allocate the K treatments completely at random. N units and ith treatment appears Ni times in the constant. So choose N1 items to recommend to receive treatments 1. N2 means N2 units means random from N minus N1 remaining the same treatment so on 2 N1 minus N minus N2 N minus N3 and so on. We can take the 10 N1 N2 N3 and so on. We can take the treatments here. The randomization produces a CRD all possible arrangements of the N units into K groups with size N1 through Ng are equally likely. Note that completely randomization only address the assignment of treatment unit. Selection of treatment, experimental unit and response is also required. Completely randomized design are the simple, mostly easily understood, most easily analyzed designs. For these reasons, we consider completely randomized design first designing the experiment. The CRD may be inadequate for some reason, but always consider the CRD when developing the experimental design before possibly moving on to a more sophisticated design. What is layout? What is the meaning of layout? Where most important of layout CRD? The term layout refers to the allocation of different treatment to the experimental units. We have already said that the treatments are allocated completely at random to the different experiment units. Every experimental unit has been the same chance of the receiving particular treatment. Preliminary explanatory analysis. The general advisory to conduct a preliminary explanatory graphically analysis of the data prior to the normal formal modeling, testing or estimation. Preliminary analysis testing jali, estimate jali. So simple descriptive statistics that means mean, median, standard errors and interquartile range plots such as terms, leaf diagrams, box plots, and scatter plots. The above procedures are applied separated to each treatment group. The preliminary analysis presents several possibilities here. Assumption: the treatment effects are additive. The errors are independently and normal distributed with zero and mean and constant variance. What are the advantages? The most important advantages and disadvantages of CRD. They will ask, I think, the long question, long question advantage of study in the design number of treatments and replications can be used. అంటే అడ్వాంటేజెస్ ఏంది నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ ట్రీట్మెంట్స్ ను రిప్లికేషన్స్ గా వాడతాం ఇక్కడ. దే మే డిఫరెంట్ ఆఫ్ రిప్లికేషన్స్ ఫర్ డిఫరెంట్ ట్రీట్మెంట్. రిప్లికేషన్స్ దేర్ ఆర్ డిఫరెంట్ నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ రిప్లికేషన్స్, ఎన్ని రిప్లికేషన్స్ అయినా ఉండొచ్చు డిఫరెంట్ ట్రీట్మెంట్స్ కి. Analysis of simple analysis is simple and easy if the number of replication unequal for each treatment. In such case, experimenter will be differ from treatment to treatment. If some of the observations are missing, be destroyed or not available due to some reasons, the analysis can be done without any problem. If it provides large degrees of freedom for error sum of squares, the increase of the sensitivity of the experiment. In CRD, there is no condition on the other number of replication of the treatments. They can be increased or decreased according to the need of experimenter. Thus, the design is flexible. అంటే నీకు డిజైన్ అబ్జర్వేషన్స్ మిస్సింగ్ అని డిశ్చార్జ్ చేస్తే డేటా అనేది ఎర్రర్ డ్యూ టు సమ్ రీజన్స్ ద అనాలిసిస్ కెన్ బి వితౌట్ ఎనీ ప్రాబ్లం వస్తుంది. ప్రొవైడ్స్ లార్జ్ డిగ్రీస్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్రీడమ్ తీసుకుంటే ఎర్రర్ రావచ్చు. ద ఇంక్రీజెస్ ద సెన్సిటివిటీ ఆఫ్ ది ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్. మనకి ఇచ్చిన డేటాలో ఆ నెంబర్ లేదనుకోండి, డిగ్రీస్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్రీడమ్ 100 ఉందనుకోండి, 100 డిగ్రీస్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్రీడమ్ లో టేబుల్ ఉందా?
లేదు సార్.
కాబట్టి అది ఎర్రర్ గా రావచ్చు అక్కడ. In CRT, there is no condition of the number of replications of the treatment that can be increased or decreasing. The experiment of the design is flexible. తక్కువ ఫ్లెక్సిబుల్ గా ఉండడం జరుగుతుంది. డిస్అడ్వాంటేజ్ చూడండి. The main disadvantage is CRT is the principle of local control has not been used in this design due to this fact the experimental errors inflated. This is the main reason is criticism of the CRD. What's the meaning of inflated? What's the meaning of inflated? ఇన్ఫ్లేటెడ్ అంటే ఏంటమ్మా?
తెలీదు సార్.
చూడండి ఒకసారి, చూడండి, చెక్ చేయండి. చెక్ చేయండి ఇన్ఫ్లేటెడ్ అంటే ఏందో.
సార్ ఇంక్రీజ్ అని వస్తుంది సార్.
అవును అవును, ఇన్ఫ్లేటెడ్ అంటే ఇంక్రీజ్ అయితే అది మన కండిషన్ వస్తా సాటిస్ఫాక్షన్ అవుతుందా సిఆర్టీలో? కాదు కదా, కాదు కదా. ద అగ్రికల్చరల్ ఎక్స్పెరిమెంట్ ద డిజైన్ సెల్డమ్ యూజ్ బికాస్ ఎక్స్పెరిమెంటల్ మెటీరియల్ ఇస్ నాట్ హోమోజీనియస్. ఈ రెండు కూడా పెద్ద డిసడ్వాంటేజ్. వెరీ మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ సిఆర్డి ఇన్ మ్యాథమెటికల్ మోడల్. సార్ మ్యాథమెటికల్ మోడల్స్ అంటే చాలా ఉన్నాయి, వాడు క్లియర్ అడుగుతాడు. ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ ద మ్యాథమెటికల్ మోడల్ ఆఫ్ సిఆర్డి. మ్యాథమెటికల్ మోడల్ ఆఫ్ ద రిగ్రెషన్ కానీ లేకపోతే ఏం ఏం ఏ మోడల్ ఆడితే ఆ మోడల్ రాయాలి. Mathematical model. So statistical analysis of CRD and deluxe of ANOVA for one-day classified data. The linear mathematical model comes Yij is equal to mu plus Ti plus Eij I is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 and Ki J is equal to 1, 2, 3 and Ni. So K I తీసుకున్నప్పుడు K తీసుకున్నాము, K తీసుకున్నప్పుడు Ni తీసుకున్నాము. Where is the yield? Yij, Y అంటే yield from Jth receiving to GAT unit to receiving the treatment here. So mu is the general mean effect, A is the effect of the ith treatment, EI is the error of the due to chance. So see here, in this model, the random errors are assumed to be normal independently distributed to mean 0 and variance sigma square, which is assumed constant for all treatment. The model is called the one-way classification analysis of variance one-way ANOVA. The typical data layout for ANOVA is shown below. Y11 నుంచి Y21 YK1, Y11 నుంచి Y21 YK1, Y1 N1 Y2 N2. కరెక్టా ఇది? కరెక్టా ది స్టేట్మెంట్? Y11 నుంచి Y21 YK1 ఇది రెండు సార్లు వచ్చింది, ఒకసారి రావాలి. అర్థమైందా? ఈడ వస్తే Y20 ఈడ వేరే రావాలి. అవునా? The model equation describes the different two situations. Fixed effects model, the treatment could have been specially chosen by the experimenter. The goal here is the test hypothesis about the treatment means estimate the model parameters. Hello? చెప్పండి. Hello? The K treatments could have been specifically chosen by the experimenter. The goal here, the test hypothesis about the treatment means the estimate the model parameters mu Ti sigma square and conclusions reached out only apply the treatments considered cannot be extend the treatments where were not in the study. You have to see here that one. And next one, random effects model. So take K treatments could be random sample from a larger population of treatments. Conclusions here extended to all the treatments in the population. The TA, the random variables, thus we are not interested in the particular ones in the model, which is the hypothesis about the variable TI. Here are a few examples taken from the Peterson design and analysis. Peterson పుస్తకంలోకి వెళ్ళి తీసుకున్నాం మనం. Design and analysis of experiment. The fixed. A scientist developed 3 new fungicides. His interest in the fungicides only. అంటే ఏం చేస్తున్నాడు, మూడు ఫంగిసైడ్స్ కనుక్కున్నాడు. ఆయన ఫంగిసైడ్స్ లో ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఉంది కాబట్టి అది ఫిక్స్డ్ అవుతుంది. ర్యాండమ్ ఏంది, సైంటిస్ట్ ఇంట్రెస్టెడ్ ఇన్ the way the fungicide works, he select a random of 3 fungicides from a group of similar fungicides due to study the action. Correct or not?
Yes, sir.
అంటే ఏం చేస్తున్నాడు, 3 అక్కడ తీస్తున్నాడు, 3 ఇక్కడ తీస్తున్నాడు, కనుక్కుంటున్నాడు ఆయన. Then fixed measures the rate of production of 5 particular machines. Random choose 5 machines. ఆడనేమో డైరెక్ట్ తీసుకుంటే ఇక్కడ choose 5 machines represent a machine in the class. Then third one, conduct an experimental obtain information about the specific soil types. Ikkademo select random 4 soils తీసుకుంటాం, that is random. Fixed random la మనకి ఇచ్చినట్టు తెలుసుకుంటాం. In this connection, the fixed effects model and ANOVA analysis of variance, the fixed effects model, the treatment effects, TI, the explicit deviation, the overall mean, so that denote by where the mean ith treatment mu is equal to EI Yj mu plus theta with interest in the technically equality of the K internal means. Summation of I is equal to 1 to K, Ti is equal to 0, H0 is equal to mu1, mu2, mu3 and so on minus mu K. Alternative H4 H is equal to mu I not equal to mu J for last time we are taking here. Then an equivalent the set of hypothesis is H0 is equal to T1, T2, T3, T4 and Tk is equal to 0. H4 Ta not equal to 0, at least 1 I. Decomposition of the total sum of squares in the following summation of I is equal to summation of I is equal to 1 to K. And I further y bar 1 by n summation of j is equal to n I yj. Y bar minus 1 by n summation of I is equal to 1 to K summation of j is equal to n I yij. The total sum of squares corrected given by some SSR. The total sum of squares SST. A T కింద కాదు TSS అది. The total sum of square అంటే SST కాదు, sum of square TSS. T ముందుకు రావాలి ఇక్కడ. Summation of I is equal to K summation of j is equal to 1 yj minus y bar whole square. Yesterday also I told you this one. The measures of the total variability of the data, the total sum of squares SST, total sum of squares TSS may be decomposed as summation of I is equal to 1 to k, j is equal to 1 to n. ఇక్కడ 1 1 రాలి yj minus y bar. Summation of I is equal to 1 ni yj y minus y bar whole square plus summation of I is equal to 1 to k, j is equal to n to n yj minus y bar whole square. So we can see that SST is equal SST is equal TSS is equal
NSS WSS. N means
గట్టి చెప్పు
N అంటే ఏంటి సార్?
Huh?
N SST TSS is equal to NSS plus WSS ఇచ్చాడు కదా. N
అంటే
అంటే
డబ్ల్యూ అంటే ఎర్రర్ టర్మ్ ఏదైనా తీసుకొని ఉంటాం కదమ్మా. బి
ఎర్రర్సా?
తీసుకు ఇక్కడ ఏదో తీసుకుని బి తీసుకున్నాడు, మనం అక్కడ ఈ తీసుకుంటాం. నిన్న చెప్పాను కదా నీకు బాండ్స్ అని వెరైటీస్ అని చెప్పాను కదా. equal summation of y is equal to 1 to k ni y minus y bar whole square is called between treatment sum of squares. SSW is equal to summation of y is equal to 1 to k, summation of j is equal to 1 to n y is j minus y bar is called within the treatments of sum of squares. One can easily show that the estimation of the common variance SSW by n minus k mean squares are obtained by dividing the sum of squares by their
సార్ ఇక్కడ ప్రింటింగ్ మిస్టేక్ పడిందా? SSB నే అది.
అదంటే ప్రాబ్లం తీరమే కదమ్మా, తీరమే కాబట్టి బి అని రాసుకోవచ్చు, డబ్ల్యూ అని రాసుకోవచ్చు.
కాదు, SSN అని ప్రింట్ అయింది కదా, ఎన్ కాదా బీనా సార్ అదే అంటున్నా.
రాసుకోవచ్చు నువ్వు ఎన్ అక్కడ టీ. ఇప్పుడు వాడు నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ టర్మ్స్ అన్నప్పుడు ఎన్ అన్నాడు, బి కూడా రాసుకోవచ్చు అమ్మా. ఇప్పుడు నీకు అక్కడ ఎన్ అయితే ఎన్, బి అయితే బి, వెరైటీస్ ఏదంటే అది రాసుకోవచ్చు నువ్వు. నీకు ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చినప్పుడు చెప్తాను జ్యోతి మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి.
సరే సార్.
One can easily show that the estimate of the common services SSW by n minus k mean squares are obtained by dividing the sum of squares by their respective degrees of freedom. MSB is equal to SS by k minus 1. So ఇక్కడ చూడు, ఇక్కడ SSB ఇచ్చినాడు చూసినావా,
SSB
MSB ఇచ్చినాడు కాబట్టి SSB ఇచ్చినాడు, అవునా?
ఎస్ సార్.
ఇక్కడ
మీన్స్
SSD దగ్గర SSB.
to
So k minus 1 MSW is equal, this is MSW is equal to SSW by n minus k. The random effects model we are taking here. The random effects model. The treatment as an experimental may be random sample from large population treatment. Otherwise, the treatment estimate the variability among the treatments of the population, such a model known as random effect model. The mathematical representation of the model is the same. As model yj is equal to mu plus ti plus epsilon plus ij. Already known assumptions. The treatment effects ti, the random sample from a population is that is a normally distributed with mean 0 and variance sigma square. That is ti equivalent to n0 comma sigma t square. The epsilon ij that are random errors which follow the normal distribution. Ikkada distribution ravali n ravali with mean 0 and a common variance sigma square. The ti independent epsilon is the variance of the observation variance of ij sigma square plus sigma t square. The two variance sigma square t square known as variance component. The usual partition of the total sum of squares still hold. SST is equal to SSB plus SSW. పక్క పక్కనే ఉంటే కింద రాదది SSB SSW అని పక్క పక్కన అది కిందికి పోయాయి, కిందికి కాదు పోయేవి SSB SSW. So since we are interested to bigger population treatment to hypothesis H not equal to summation of sigma square t is equal to 0 versus hypothesis H not sigma square t is rejected favor of greater than unte with there is a significant difference. Testing is performed using the SEM statistics fixed effects model. We are taking here F is equal MSB by MSW. The alpha level rejects greater than F statistics. We will learn that F 0 greater than F of k minus 1 n minus 1 k of alpha n minus 1 k minus 1 are the degrees of freedom. Very most important statistical analysis. Write the test of statistical analysis in the short question they will ask. Testing. Write the statistical analysis they will ask here. Since we assume the random errors are independent random variables, it follows by Cochrane theorem. What is the meaning? What is the definition of Cochrane theorem? Tell me anyone. Cochrane theorem. మిమ్మల్నేనండి చెప్పుకున్నాం మా కొగ్రాన్ తీరం.
QJ by
పుస్తకం చూడండి ఒకసారి చూసి చెప్పండి. పుస్తకం చూడండి అమ్మా. జ్యోతి కోమలి ఎవరు ఉన్నారు చూడండి, పుస్తకం చూడండి.
QJ by sigma square, sir.
ఆ?
QJ by sigma square.
ఆ.
If and only if summation of J equals to 1 to K, Rj equals to N.
So the correct the Cochran theorem null hypothesis is true. F naught is equal to MSB by MSW. So follows on F distribution K minus 1 and N minus K degrees of freedom. Thus an alpha level test H naught rejects H naught. Therefore F naught greater than F K minus 1 N minus K alpha. The following unable table is represent the test procedure here. Source degrees of freedom K minus 1, error N minus K, total N minus 1. This is SSB, SSW. ఎర్రర్ ఎస్ఎస్సి. ఇది ఎస్ఎస్సి అవునా? ఇది ఎస్ఎస్సి, ఇది బిట్వీన్ కాబట్టి ఎస్ఎస్బి, ఇది టోటల్ కాబట్టి టిఎస్ఎస్, ఇది బిట్వీన్ కాబట్టి ఎంఎస్బి. దిస్ ఈజ్ ఎంఎస్సి, దిస్ ఈజ్ ఎంఎస్సి, దెన్ ఎంఎస్బి బై ఎంఎస్సి. క్లియరా?
Yes, sir.
So comparing model, the analysis of variance. So in the standard analysis of CRD, we are interested in the mean response of the treatment statement. Groups, one obvious place to begin to decide whether the means are కంప్లీట్గా థియరీ పార్ట్ చదవాల్సిందే. నేను చదివిపోయినా మీరు అర్థం చేసుకొని అడగాలి నన్ను. ఏం అర్థం కాలేదంటే నేను ఏం చేయలేను. యూ హ్యావ్ టు స్టడీ అండ్ అండర్స్టూడ్ ది ఆస్కింగ్ ద క్వశ్చన్స్. లేదంటే ఏం ఒక్క ముక్క కూడా అర్థం కాదు. నేను మళ్ళీ చెప్తున్నా. ఆర్ సమ్ ఆఫ్ ద డిఫర్ రీస్టార్టింగ్ ద సేమ్ restating the questions of the terms of models, restating these questions terms in models. We ask whether the data can be adequately described by the model and single mean, or if we need the model of separate treatment group means. Recall the single mean and model a special group of means model. That is, we can choose the parameters in the groups and model, then actually get the same mean for all group. The single mean model is said to be a reduced or restricted version of the group means. Model analysis of variance, usually abbreviated ANOVA, is the model method of comparing up to fit models that they reduce the fever. So strictly speaking, ANOVA is the arithmetic procedure for portioning the variability in the data set into bits associated with the different mean structure. A leftover bit is a really Pythagorean theorem. You know that the Pythagorean theorem. What's the meaning of Pythagorean theorem? What's the meaning of Pythagorean theorem? AC square is equal
to sum of two sides, sir.
AB square is equal to AB square plus BC square. Correct?
Yes, sir.
The Pythagorean theorem, we are taking that we have right triangles perfectly careful the dimensional space with the addition the error structure. The data is independent normal to the variance and also information provided with ANOVA analysis of variance. It will be comparing the different mean structures and models. The MENS are represented by the ANOVA. The link between the ANOVA decomposition for the variability test for models. So tight, however, the sometimes peak testing by ANOVA, even though the test is not really part of the ANOVA. Assumption of underlying ANOVA. Experimental errors are random, independently and normally distributed about mean zero with the common variance. Treatment variance are homogeneous. And experimental error lo random gaani dani distribute chesina aithe mean is zero aitundi and with the common variance. The above assumption can be treated as NID. The departure from this assumption can affect both level significant and sensitivity of test. Real departures H naught we are taking here. The results of the rejection, the type 1 error Already I told you, true it, the all corrections is correct, false is the type 1 error. So here also the results, the rejection, the type 1 error rejection got more often they call alpha calls for, we can take in here. The power of the test also reduce the assumption here. Violation of the assumption. Usually literal consequence of the ANOVA is very Rope's technique, a violation of the basic assumption of ANOVA invested by the observing plots of the residuals. Residuals will be discussed in the more detail in terms of discussion later. What is a null hypothesis? What is the meaning of null hypothesis? Null hypothesis. Null hypothesis అంటే if you want to null hypothesis HO alternative hypothesis null hypothesis అంటే equal అనుకుంటాం alternative hypothesis not equal to అనుకుంటాం for at least one pair letters we can write y bar is equal to 1 by n summation of y is equal to 1 to v summation of j is equal to 1 by yij. So that is y bar is mean observations of reason I treatment, y I bar is equal to 1 by r summation of j is equal to yj. This is called as one. Discuss the random effect model, explain the advantage and disadvantage of CRD. ANOVA, this one, this is a major important this is a major important in your main examinations. This one in this exam, the examinations, this is the first question, this is the second question, more important. Any doubts, ask me. Any doubts, ask me fast. కనబడ్డాయా స్క్రీన్ మీద?
సార్
E and F test for CRD. E అంటే estimation of sum of squares, అందులో mean sum of squares, estimation of sum of squares లో మీ estimation of mean sum of squares. F test ANOVA table, just introduction ఇచ్చి కంప్లీట్ చేస్తాను, నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ ఇది క్లాస్ పోదాం. Explain the mean sum of squares, exact the calculated F test, discuss the structure of ANOVA numerical problems. The parameters mu and Ti, the model of estimated principle, least square and the minimizing error. Summation of y is equal to 1 to summation of y, extra j square, summation of y, summation of yj minus mu minus j square. Difference with respect to mu and equity in zero normal equations. Then differentiate చేస్తే -2 వస్తుందా? Partial differentiate చేస్తే
సార్ -2
ఎట్లా వస్తుంది? partial differentiate చేస్తే -2
విత్ రెస్పెక్ట్ టు మ్యూ కదా?
విత్ రెస్పెక్ట్ టు చేస్తే -2 ఎందుకు వస్తుందని అడుగుతున్నాను. ఎందుకు వస్తుంది అంటే
అవును లేదు
-2 కాబట్టి -2 అంతేనా జ్యోతి? జ్యోతి అంతేనా? పెట్టాక డబ్బా -m తో చేస్తాను. -2 సిగ్మా జే వైజ మైనస్ మ్యూ టు ఏజీ. టీ లో కూడా వేస్తే -2 వస్తుంది. యూజింగ్ సమ్మేషన్ ఆఫ్ y ఈక్వల్ టు 1 to y t0 we get the above equations here. mu cap y bar ti y minus y bar. So substituting the above estimate mu ti in the model, we get summation of y summation of j yj minus y bar. See here, summation of yj minus y bar yj minus yj bar whole square. So r into summation of y yi minus yi bar minus y bar whole square. T common తీసుకున్న దాంట్లో t sigma j yj minus y bar whole square. The product term single, since the algebraic sum of deviations remains 0. TSS is equal to SST plus SSC, where TSS the total sum of square, TSS is the sum of squares due to treatments, and the error usually is given by TSS, SST, SSC. You know that all of these values are TSS, SST, SSC degrees of freedom. SST will carry v minus 1, TSS n minus 1, SSC n minus 1 v. We can, these one we are taking here. The sum of squares are divided by its degrees of freedom corresponding means TSS SST by v minus 1, SSC by n minus v, E SST error sum of square v minus 1, that is EMS is equal to sigma e square by 1 minus 1. This may be written as here ESS is equal to n minus v. అంటే మనం రాస్తున్నాం టోటల్ రాస్తున్నాం n minus v అని n లోకల్ వాల్యూ తీసేస్తే సిగ్మా స్క్వేర్. ది సింప్లిఫైస్ e into SSE by n minus v into MSE by sigma e square. F test, hence F statistics under HO. ఈ ఫార్ములా మనం ఎక్కడైనా వాడామా? ఈ ఫార్ములా చూపండి నాకు. ఈ ఫార్ములా వాడామా ఎక్కడన్నా? వాడామా ఈ ఫార్ములా?
దాకా కాల్
సార్
చేయగలను.
మనం ప్రాక్టికల్ క్లాసెస్ లో చదివాం కదా.
నేను
FT is equal to ST square by SC square అంటే లాస్ట్ కాలంలో వాడతాం. F
లాస్ట్
statistics
కాలంలో వేస్తాం సార్. అవును
వాడతాం దీన్ని మనం.
చార్జెస్ తో
అన్నవర్ టేబుల్ ఇగో ఇక్కడే వాడాం చూడండి. డిగ్రీస్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్రీడమ్ v minus 1 n minus 1 n minus 1 error n minus v. SST is equal to ST square SST by v minus 1 n minus 1. This is the one interpretation. If the calculated value of f is less than the critical value, if it is alpha percent significance level, fa v minus 1 n minus 1, then we do not reject the null hypothesis. Other we reject the null hypothesis. We conclude the significant difference in the several population needs. Doubts unnaya amanna? Any doubts? మిమ్మల్ని
ఇప్పుడు ఏం
సార్ ఈ
తప్పదు.
సమ్ యాజ్ యూజువల్ మనం అంత ముందు చేసినట్టుగానే ఉంటాయి కదా సార్. TSS SSM SSC కూడా.
అవును ఒక ప్రాబ్లం చూద్దాము. 10 నిమిషాలు ఉంది. నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ చూద్దాంలే. పెద్ద టేబుల్ ఇది, పెద్ద టేబుల్. ఇప్పుడు ఫస్ట్ యాక్చువల్ గా ఇచ్చిన డాటాని ఎలా రాయాలో చెప్తాను నేను రేపు. ఇచ్చిన డాటాని ఎలా రాయాలి వాడు ర్యాండమ్ ఇచ్చాడు. ఇప్పుడు జస్ట్ ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేస్తాడు.
అలాగేనండి. ఓకే.
ఇక్కడ ఏ ఇంత ఇచ్చినాడమ్మా?
ఫస్ట్ రో ఏ ఇవ్వలేదు కదా సార్. ఈనే 2 టైమ్స్
ఏ టోటల్ చేయమ్మా. ఈ టేబుల్ ఏ టోటల్ చేయ ఎంత వచ్చింది చెప్పు.
ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ ది డే
ఏ టోటల్ చేయండి అమ్మా అందరూ. ఒకరు ఏ టోటల్, ఒకరు బి టోటల్, ఒకరు సి టోటల్, ఒకరు డి టోటల్, ఒకరు ఈ టోటల్ చేయండి. ఒకరు ఏ టోటల్, ఒకరు బి టోటల్, ఒకరు సి టోటల్, ఒకరు డి టోటల్, ఒకరు ఈ టోటల్ చేయండి అమ్మా.
సి 91
టోటల్ చేస్తున్నాను.
సి ఎంత వచ్చిందమ్మా?
91.
ఇగో ఓకే, ఐఎమ్ డౌనింగ్ ద మై టేబుల్. మీరు చెప్పినారు సి 91 క్లియరా?
బి 99 సార్.
ఇగో ఇక్కడ బి 99 చూడండి. ఇగో T2 99. ఇగో
సార్ ఏ 118.
ఇగో 118. T4
72 వస్తుంది సార్.
తప్పు. T4 మరొకసారి చేయండి. T5 72 అమ్మా. ఈ 72 ఉంది ఇక్కడ. ఒకసారి క్రాస్ చెక్ చేయండి. ఇప్పుడు ఫస్ట్ దాంట్లో 20 ఇచ్చినాడు, సెకండ్ దాంట్లో లేదు.
100 వస్తుంది సార్.
T4 100 వచ్చిందా? ఈ చేయండి. ఇక్కడ 20 వచ్చింది.
డి 100.
ఇగో 20 36 46 52. ఇక్కడ ఇగో 50 ఇక్కడ కూడా ఉంది. ఇగో ఇక్కడ కూడా ఉంది. ఇక్కడ 20 39 55 55 65 71 వచ్చింది కదమ్మా. ఇగో ఇక్కడ ఒకటి వచ్చిందా?
ఈ 71 వచ్చింది.
అంటే అప్పుడు ఏం చేసినాం మనము? వాడు ఇచ్చిన కండిషన్స్ లో ఏం రాసాం మనము? ABCDలు టోటల్ చేసుకున్నాం. అవునా? ABCD టోటల్ చేసుకున్నాం. T1 T2 T3 T4 T5 రాసాం. ఈ T1 T2 T3 T4 T5 మొత్తం టోటల్ చేయండి.
479 వచ్చింది సార్.
వచ్చింది. అంటే మన కరెక్షన్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్యాక్టర్ ఏంది 479 హోల్ స్క్వేర్ బై 20 అంట. 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 5 into 4 20యా కాదమ్మా, ఇది 5 into 4 కదా, ఇది మొత్తం 20 ఉన్నాయి లేవో చూడండి ఇవి నెంబర్స్.
ఉన్నాయి సార్, ఉన్నాయి.
అంటే 479 హోల్స్ 479 into 479 by 20 అది ఆ వాల్యూ వచ్చిందా చూడండి.
సార్ 11472.05 వచ్చింది.
రో సమ్ ఆఫ్ స్క్వేర్స్ అంటే ఏం చేసినాడు, రో సమ్ ఆఫ్ స్క్వేర్స్ అంటే ఏం చేసినాడు,
అది ప్రతిదాన్ని స్క్వేర్ చేసి యాడ్ చేశారు.
21 స్క్వేర్. మరి ఇక్కడ 21 స్క్వేర్ ఎక్కడ ఉంది, 19 స్క్వేర్ 22
21 లేదు కదా.
ఎయిటీన్ కూడా లేదు.
రో సమ్ ఆఫ్ స్క్వేర్స్ వీడు రాసింది మర్చిపోండి. మీరు 19 స్క్వేర్ 22 స్క్వేర్ 20 స్క్వేర్ 29 స్క్వేర్ 24 24 26 25 16 22 28 25 31 28 27 16 27 20 టోటల్ చేస్తే వాల్యూ వస్తుందమ్మా మీకు.
సరే సార్.
ఇందులోకి 11,847 నుంచి 11,470 తీశారు. సమ్ ఆఫ్ స్క్వేర్స్ డ్యూ టు మేక్స్ 71 స్క్వేర్. ఇగో ఇక్కడ చూడండి, T5 71, 99 T2 91 100 118 అంటే T1 T2 T3 T4 by 4 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 కదా. మరి 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 ఎందుకు రాసుకుందాం మనము, 4 ఇచ్చినాడు ఇక్కడ. ఇక్కడ చూడండి, ఈ 4 కదమ్మా ఫస్ట్ లో కాలమ్స్ 1 2 3 4 కదా. ఇవి 4 కదా, 1 2 3 4 కదా.
సార్
సపోర్ట్ చేయనమ్మా 4.
నేను రో సమ్ ఆఫ్ స్క్వేర్స్ చేస్తున్నాను సార్, అసలు ఎంత వస్తుంది అన్న.
చేయండి చేయండి.
సార్ 11626 వచ్చింది మొత్తం రో సమ్ ఆఫ్ స్క్వేర్స్.
అంటే అక్కడ తప్పేదో జరిగిపోయి ఉంటుంది, ఒకసారి క్రాస్ చెక్ చేయండి. నేను కూడా ఒకసారి చేస్తా. సో ఆ రకంగా మనం చేస్తే ఈ ప్రాబ్లం నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ నేను కంటిన్యూ చేస్తే ఒకసారి ట్రై చేయండి. ఇదంతా క్లియర్ చేసి నేను నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ చెప్తా. ఓకే, ఒక్కసారి క్రాస్ చెక్ చేయండి. విల్ కంటిన్యూ ఇన్ ద నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్. ఎనీ డౌట్స్ ఆస్క్ మీ.
ఓకే సార్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. విల్ మీట్ ఆన్ నెక్స్ట్ క్లాస్.
బాయ్ సార్.
అంతే వచ్చింది.